And that's how it looks from 250 feet up from the drone. And that's a good way of checking out the clouds and getting past all these trees that we have around the area. So this is how it looks. I fly this with the iPad, and the readout looks like that, and I control the drone on the screen, and this is what it looks like. I've had a few questions about what kind of drone it is, and it's a Zerotech Dobby. Pretty compact. It folds up and goes into a small case, and I'm starting to trust it around swamps and stuff like that. I'm not having to worry about that going into the water, fortunately. Knock on wood. But anyway, that was kind of neat, and you can see that the spring colors are definitely coming out here. Alright, well, we've got a lot of weather to look at, and I've been kind of going through it over the past past hour or so. And let me bring that up here. We've got an MCS in Mississippi, Louisiana, and isolated cells around the Interstate 35 corridor of Texas. Now, what's important to keep in mind here is location of the low. There's kind of a low center from south of Dallas to about San Saba and Llano. So what that means is that on this side we're looking at the cold front being out to the west, and then on the other side that's going to be the warm front region. And of course the warm front is or either a warm front or a stationary front is of a lot of concern, because we get the backed winds to the east of the lows, and a lot of the low-level flow tends to impinge on the front up in that area, whereas down here that tends to be a little bit weaker. So the storms, they can tend to be a little bit higher based. Now, as far as those cells, we can head into GR level 2. This is the Shreveport radar, and we can zoom right in. We've had a tornado emergency for Coushatta here, which is roughly between Shreveport and Alexandria, and you can see that the storm is embedded, kind of buried in that mess. So it would be very difficult to resolve this with the older WSR 57 radars. But let me back this up and show you what it looked like about 10 or 20 minutes ago. Okay, there we go. Going backwards, you can see it looked a little bit more isolated, and you can see the hook echo just to the west of town there. So there's the supercell. This looks kind of like a classic supercell embedded in this mess. The inflow coming up like that, and we'll zoom in on that circulation and really get a good look at that. So there's the town of Coushatta there. The casinos, which is one thing the town is known for, is up in that region there. So here's that hook right there, and let me switch over to the velocity. And here you can see a very strong couplet. Let me see if I can get the velocities for you. This is the rear flank downdraft area. It's heading away from the radar. So the velocities in this region, again, this is about 20 minutes ago, bear that in mind. Looking about 89 to 95 outbound. And then the inbound over here, this is the inflow heading towards the radar also. This is about 55 in. So we're looking at about 150 knots of shear in that circulation. So I'm going to start out putting a dot there, since that's the first frame I have. You can see the TVS signature there, and let's track that during the time between 20 minutes ago and now. Get the window resized here. Okay, bring that forward. Here we go. So you can see the circulation moving, and referencing this dot, that gives you an idea of the movement. Now it appears in this frame, circulation may be down here, and let's keep going forward. This is 46 after, there's 48, 50 after, and you can see it moving just south of the town there, and it looks like the casino area is spared. And at this point the circulation looks to be right in this area, and I like looking at this bearing here. Let me show you the down on the bottom. I like to use this readout because that gives me an idea of the forecast track. So the movement on that is about 98 degrees. So I can pretty much project that forward to continue along that 98 degree azimuth like that. So if we were looking at kind of an extended problem, we could use that to see who is in the path. Now this went just south of town, and it's probably a good idea to see what's out there. And I'm just checking out Google here. It appears this went through this region, and I think that's all just farmland and the Red River there. So it looks like most of the town is pretty much spared as far as I can tell from just this 5 minutes of looking around. Okay, let's see what else is going on. We've got a bunch of other storms too. In fact, leaving the Coushatta storm, let me just see what's going on. Yeah, the circulation has kind of died out and spread apart for the time being. And it looks like they've dropped the tornado warning. A couple of other cells. This one has a tornado warning, and also one in Texas between Carthage and Tanaha, tornado warning storm. And I haven't had a chance to really resolve this, but this looks like the outbound, and there's the inbound region. And the velocities in that don't look particularly tight there. But that definitely is kind of a potent storm, and it's not being seeded or anything like that, and it's got a large area of inflow out ahead of it. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out to Texas. Let me pull up the Fort Worth radar, and while we're looking at that, let's check out the West Coast. They've been getting a lot of precip there too. This is the hang on a second. Yeah, this is today's observed precip, and you can see north of San Francisco there, we go up from 1 inch, and then these yellows, these are 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So a lot of rain up there in the northern mountains. How's it been looking over the past 30 days? I'm going to show you the departure from normal. Or percentage of normal. Coming up. A lot of the areas in the Great Basin, those are still pretty dry. You can see the Sierra Nevadas, they've been getting quite a bit of rain there. Reno, Lake Tahoe, about 200 to 300%. The San Joaquin Valley is still kind of dry, but the higher elevations have been getting the rain. And let's show you the drought. This is the National Drought Monitor for April 5th. This just kind of shows the long-term situation, and we've got a drought from basically the Four Corners to the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle. Looks like California, their situation has improved over the long term. Okay, let's see what we have next. There's just a quick look at the precip through this morning. So an inch there at Ukiah. And then, good grief, this brings us to the watches and warnings and advisories. Freeze advisory anywhere from Lubbock all the way up to the Ozarks, out to Paducah. Back behind that, we've got winter weather advisories, Kentucky, western Kansas, and then up in southwestern Minnesota there, we've got a winter weather or winter storm watch there for Sunday night there. Or I think Sunday and Sunday night. Anyway, it's been a lot to keep track of. All right, so we've got the cold air coming down, and let's just check out the status. Looking at the surface map. 1040 millibar high coming southward from central Canada there. Leading edges from Arkansas to the Red River of Texas and pushing there into the Lubbock area. And so a lot of the storms that we've seen have developed along this southernmost warm front, and I also think we have a dry line possibly out to the west. So let's check out the surface chart. We'll shift this down south. So we're looking at digital atmosphere here. And yeah, we do have a dry line. I would say it's probably running something like that right there. The storms are probably a little bit out ahead of that, possibly. They're just popping up where we've had good sunshine and heating. Temperatures have come up to well over 80 in some areas there of North Texas. So let's see those storms come up, and I'm going to go to the satellite. I've got a really good visible image here. This starts out at about 3:15 p.m. This is looking at North Texas. So Dallas is located about right here. Fort Worth is here, and this is the Jacksboro to Bridgeport and Denton area. So you can see that this is an area kind of devoid of high cloud. So there's been a lot of insulation, solar heating hitting the ground here, heating things up, and we get that cumulus field developing there. And we roll that forward. And you can see the towering cumulus coming up there south of Gainesville, northwest of McKinney. And things really come together. You can see the overshooting tops on that storm. And then as things continue on, let me shift this south a little bit. Hang on a second. Yeah, there we go. Some pretty good overshoots up there in the Dallas area. And then these other storms that are out near the dry line, those also get going. And once we get up to sunset, where the solar angles are kind of low, you can really see the overshoots really nicely there. Yeah, there was one frame back there. That southernmost storm, that is really impressive. Okay, and that's how things look out there in Texas on the visible imagery. And also wanted to bring up this image. This was from, let me see. Sorry, there's been like I said, there's been a lot to keep track of. Yeah, David Moore sent this. This was storms in the DFW area. This is a storm approaching David's position there. And then as it went out to the east, this is the backside. So I appreciate that, David. And he emailed those photos, and he also remembered to include the permission to use it on the air. Because sometimes people send me photos, and I don't know if it's meant to be put on the webcast and whether it's just for me to look at, and I'd rather not assume. So I appreciate that, David. Let's head to the analysis charts and start dissecting things here. So you can see we've definitely got that cold front coming down. Gusty winds up there in Kansas, and we'll bring up the surface observations. Temperatures already in the 20s up there in Kansas, and I'm showing 23 in Garden City and Dodge City. So that's some very cold air coming down. And even Oklahoma City is starting to come down into the 30s. Let's check out the moisture field, because that's what's feeding the storms. I think theta E might be a good field to look at. This shows where we have the most buoyant parcels given constant upper level conditions. So it looks like we have a theta E ridge pretty much on the I-35 corridor, and no wonder we have those storms going up right in that area. So the fuel out there is definitely much better. And then these storms out here, these are more associated with the moist sector impinging on that warm front, convergence in that area coming together really well. And I believe there may have been some, I think the cat may actually be a little bit weaker in that area also. Okay, we'll go ahead and look at the upper level conditions and see how things look. There's the 250 millibar chart. This is from this morning, and we're showing what looks like maybe two polar front jet segments. One coming in from the Pacific coast associated with that storm system that's hitting California right now, and then another one. This is more associated with that Hudson Bay vortex, very deep low up there, and we're getting this jet coming in from Canada and offshore around New Jersey and New York. So pretty much everybody under westerly flow, and especially up there in the Great Lakes region, winds up to 150 to 160 knots. And then we can look at the moisture, certainly. This is this morning. Dew points running about 50 to 54 Fahrenheit. So if I drew the 50 isotherm at 850 millibars, it would be something like that. And then if I did maybe 55, I suspect it would look something like that right there. So this shows that the moisture field is actually quite deep and quite rich. And we can look at that on the soundings in a little bit. And then up north, you can really see that cold air coming down. This is the 850 millibar cold front, running something like that right there. And back behind it, temperatures at 850 are below 0 Fahrenheit. And we'll go ahead and tie things together with the isobars and thickness. So I'm going to use 1,000 through 500 millibar thickness tonight. So this is showing that huge dome of high pressure coming south, and it looks like the leading edge is pretty much banked against the higher terrain of the Rockies through Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. And then we have our other system offshore around California. Looks like the warm front has lifted north. Looks like it's up there near Crescent City. And offshore, the cold front is still out to sea, but we're going to be expecting to see that come in tomorrow into California. So that's going to bring in dry air and clear things out from northwest to southeast. It does appear that there's still some cold air up to the north. See how far that ridge goes. It goes all the way up into the Arctic ice pack region. And there's more cold air up here. And I don't think the GFS was forecasting like an extended outbreak of cold air, but looking at this chart up in Canada, that actually wouldn't surprise me too much. All right, let's take a look at the satellite, and I'll check in on the chat, see how things are going. So there's our busy picture, the water vapor imagery showing the storm tops there from Mississippi out to Dallas and then down towards the Austin, Temple, Lampasas area. Okay, we got a pretty good crowd tonight. Erica Baker, Coffeyville, Kansas, 39. Gusty north winds there. Ron Chalfon in Southern California reporting 100% cloud cover, but no wind. We've got Mike Estwick, and Mike R. is here from waterlogged San Francisco. We have Mick and Carl Burkhoff. Mike R. is reporting in San Francisco. A full Pineapple Express has been raining all day there and picking up in intensity the last couple of hours. I can go ahead and move you guys out there. There you go. Ron Chalfont out there in the LA area has been watching RadarScope, keeping an eye on things. We've got Ryan Toomey's there in Florida. Mike Estwick wanting that rain there in Colorado. Mike R. is reporting up to 5 inches on the north coast in this area of California there. And Mike has got 2.83. Sue M is with us, and Ryan reporting warm and humid in South Florida. And I can see we dropped some frames earlier, so yeah, I'm aware of that. Okay, David Holcomb is here, David Moore, Chris Tyne. I'm probably not going to be able to read all these messages. Let me just kind of scroll through. Yeah, I appreciate the mention, Mike Estwick, the weather books, Digital Atmosphere. Adam Davis, watching things in bed. He's got a cold. Not feeling too well. Sorry to hear that. David Moore says the front is pushed through the Metroplex. Weather Service calling for 31 in Texas tonight, North Texas. And Christian Flock, Yukon, Oklahoma, 41 degrees, winds gusting to 38. And very good. Okay. Yeah, some of you guys are getting buffering. Let me take a look at the numbers here. I think the buffering has actually slowed down. There may have been something weird going on the network, so I'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully we won't have any more problems. So we've had quite a bit of thunderstorm activity in Texas, and I think that's probably a good opportunity to look at the soundings. So we don't have a sounding from Fort Worth yet for whatever reason. Let's try Shreveport. One problem with Shreveport, if we try to look at their sounding, you can see that they're back behind this area where they had storms earlier, and the sounding launch would have been about 2 hours ago. So there's a chance that they may have gotten wiped out, or they may be showing artifacts from those showers. And yeah, there's no sounding from Shreveport. So I guess we'll just have to look at Lake Charles. Nothing there either. Okay, so we're going to review this morning's data. We can always go to the models to look at the soundings, so that's not a problem. Should be in the ballpark. Okay, Fort Worth sounding coming up there, and you can see the loaded gun. Very deep moisture starting out from low to mid 60s dew points, so yeah, that's pretty good moisture. And I'm bringing up kind of a mixed moist parcel, and then I'm going from the temperature line down the dry adiabat. I'm getting an idea of how much capping there was today, and I'm seeing that we had a convective temperature of about 88 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's fairly strong, but not unusually strong. So given that we got temperatures in the low to mid 80s, this would be a sounding associated with scattered thunderstorms, and indeed that's what we did see. And pretty good lapse rates from about 6,000 up to about 15,000, and that's helping to support the high capes we're seeing this evening. And then we'll take a look at Shreveport. This is from this morning also, and you can see the moisture is pretty impressive from the surface up to 3,000. And I'm going to take away some of the moisture a little bit. I'm going to assume that some of the dry air has mixed into the parcel, and then I'm going to lift that. And we only need a temperature there of about 78 to 79 Fahrenheit. And that's enough to clear the cap. So no wonder we've had more numerous cells out in that region. And you can definitely see it there. This is what we have with a cap, convective temperature. A weak cap with a convective temperature of about 80. And then out here, this is a moderate cap with a convective temperature of about 88 to 90. So scattered storms, and here almost solid storms. So that's that's a good example of why you should keep an eye on those soundings, because they will tell you the character of the activity you'll see later in the day. Okay, let me see what else is left. I guess we can look at the NAM and see what's in store. Okay, so here's how things looked on the NAM around midday. You can see that front coming south. This is the 18Z run, and this gives us an idea of where the model was trying to break out precip. It was going for a pretty good cluster there northwest of Austin. That's sort of verified. And I can kind of make out the dry line right in here. And it looked like it was going for some sort of mesolow also. If you look at the wind field, let me go back here. Yeah, you can see the convergence there in the wind field, indicating probably a little bit of localized lift in that region. And that could have removed the cap along that dry line in that region. So anyway, the cold front comes through, and the model got it pretty reasonable as far as the location of the precip. It pretty much nailed North Dallas there. So the model verifying pretty good. And then that brings us to the current time, about right there. And then for the rest of the evening, looks like we got a little wave there in East Texas. So that's helping us support that warm front. Of course, the warm front is actually being forced south. And let's see how things look overnight. Here come the cold temperatures, freezing conditions all the way down to Sherman, Jacksboro, Stephenville, all the way down. So yeah, about half of North Texas is going to be below freezing. And up there in Wichita, 27 at Oklahoma City, 27 at Amarillo. And let's see how things warm up. 18Z, 1 p.m., some areas still below freezing. Southern Oklahoma and south of Wichita Falls. And temperatures top out at about 42 at DFW, 43. And that'll probably be the end of winter, at least for a while. Looks like one last cold night, actually, and then things really warm up for Sunday. Looks like another little cold front coming south, and temperatures back up to the low 90s, low to mid 90s out in West Texas, but that's Texas for you. Okay, so yeah, that's our sneak peek, and let's go ahead and head to the regular models. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the wintry precip. Looks like snow starting out in Kansas tonight, and that'll move down to Oklahoma around dawn. So looks like some sleet falling there in the Oklahoma City area, snow up in around Stillwater. And this is pretty much on track with what we were showing last night. So mixed precip along the Red River all the way to Little Rock, and the snow pretty much passing through Tulsa and staying out in the Ozarks. Then the cold air comes south, ridging for the weekend, and then we start bringing the warm air north again on Sunday. And we'll pick that up with the GFS. But let's check out California. Can't forget them. We've got 1.5 inch precipitable water coming onshore there. So the bulk of it will be hitting San Francisco over the next 6 hours, coming into the valleys, and then surging into Los Angeles tomorrow morning. So tomorrow looks kind of stormy there for Los Angeles, but things should be improving in the San Francisco and Sacramento area. So we'll put it together here with the GFS. So here comes the cold air. That's kind of the story there. GFS kind of agreeing there with the NAM as far as the distribution of the winter precip. So it's keeping that mostly north of Dallas, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some light sleet towards the very end in the Dallas area. Then tomorrow evening, we've got the low moving out to Georgia and Alabama there. So probably a window of severe weather in that region tomorrow. And that heads offshore. And then looks like we have more action coming in from the west. Looks like a new cold front. Actually, that's the cold front we're expecting, actually. Yeah, there it is coming in for Saturday morning. And then during the evening, it's working through Southern California and Nevada, crossing the Rockies, and we're starting to develop the lee side trough there for Sunday morning. And then for Sunday midday, looking at something like that there as far as the frontal positions. So the warm sector is pretty far south. We've also got the southern system up in the Minnesota area. So that's going to be producing some snow there on Sunday. That southern system, surprisingly, it comes through dry. I guess we don't have much moisture left. And after that, we've basically got the ridging starting to build southward. You can see the higher pressures in the central plains and the Great Basin, and we'll just have some cold air moving south Monday and Tuesday, kind of a cool week. And let's see, the next big change, Alberta Clipper coming in to the Great Lakes on Thursday, and very strong cyclogenesis out to the west on Thursday. This is another powerful Pacific system coming in. So the fronts look kind of like that right there. Some pretty good showers there, snow showers, in the Salt Lake City and Elko, Ely, Tonopah region. And then we see very strong pressure falls there in the Central Plains. So it appears our system is heading mostly for the Central Plains region. Warm front lifting north. And there's our cold front. And this is a good setup for a dry line also. It's probably going to be something like that. And quite a bit of wraparound with this storm coming in for Friday. So we're going to be looking at probably another near blizzard there in the Dakotas. So there's how things look on Friday. So it looks pretty stormy there for Minnesota, the Dakotas, and the Great Lakes over the next week or so. And looks like our third system is coming into the California area next weekend. So hopefully they get all caught up on the rain without too much damage. This one also heads for the central U.S., at least it looks that way right now. And it's probably too early to call thunderstorms on that system. And another surge of cold air coming south. So, yeah, the Hudson Bay vortex is still at it and starting to look like it's going to be with us for at least the next 2 weeks. 1030 millibar high coming down, and yeah, it looks very cold over the next week. Okay, back to the radar. Before we finish out here, we've got these storms out in Texas starting to join up. The cold pools are kind of linking up and developing an MCS from north of Tyler to Corsicana to Waco. Don't see anything in there that looks too bad at this time. And let me zoom out and look at the Louisiana area. It looks pretty quiet right now. Looks like a tornado warning across the river in Mississippi there. Okay, so hopefully I covered everything during these past 37 minutes. Let me take a quick look at chat here. Okay, oh yeah, buffering, let me see. Yeah, we dropped a few more frames. I don't know what's going on. I'll run some tests. We may have to just reset our router. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Okay, yeah, Burl H24 in Iowa City. And yeah, thanks for the photo, David. And I think that's all I got for tonight. Anyway, thank you for joining the webcast. We may be on break tomorrow night, as long as there's no big severe weather out in Alabama and Georgia. I'll kind of take a look at things during the day and see how it is. And if we do go forward with the break, we'll be back on Sunday. All right, have a good evening and have a good weekend. Take care.